Oftentimes, iconic performers, they have a hard time letting go of their careers. Their career becomes their identity, is who they are. Achieving their goals, it takes precedence over their marriage. Sometimes it's even prioritized over their own children. You become so used to the spotlight, you become so accustomed to the attention, even when your skills have noticeably diminished, even when you're no longer the same performer that you were in your prime. For some reason, they still have a hard time letting go. Michael Jordan had a difficult time walking away from the NBA. Hell, Tom Brady squeezed his NFL career until there was nothing left to squeeze. Another thing icons tend to have in common, they rarely work well with others. Kobe Bryant was notorious for not getting along with his teammates. Teammates of Michael Jordan, they were afraid of him. When you're winning championships, when you're reaching the pinnacle of success, people are more willing to tolerate your bullshit. But what happens when you're being dominated by your competition? What happens when you're nearing the end of your career and you're just not the same performer? What happens when you're a notorious hard ass, but you're also reaching huge embarrassing failure status? I'll tell you what happens. You end up like Skip Bayless. It is a well-known fact that debating sports is the most important thing in Skip Bayless's life. I mean, the dude openly admits his career is more important than his wife, Ernestine. Poor Ernest, can you imagine being married or living with Skip Bayless? Skip Bayless considers himself to be the founder of what he calls embrace debate. He reached the pinnacle of his career when he was working at ESPN. The duo of Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, that duo was television gold. They had the premier debate show in sports media. All Skip Bayless had to do was keep with the status quo, and he could have rode the success of First Take into his retirement. Well, Skip Bayless will never retire, so he could have rode the success into his grave. The problem, though, for Skip Bayless, he thought he had become bigger than ESPN. He thought he could take his name recognition to FS1, team up with Shannon Sharpe. Hey, it's me, Shay Shay! And they could replicate the success that he had with Stephen A. Smith at ESPN. Problem was, it never happened. Ratings for Undisputed absolutely suck. The partnership between Skippy Bebe and his former lover Shay Shay, it was never the same as the partnership with Stephen A. Smith. You want to know why? Shannon Sharpe never needed Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless is absolutely brutal to work with. 10 years ago, when he entered into his relationship with Stephen A. Smith, the relationship was not balanced. The power dynamic was heavily favored towards Skippy. When Stephen A. Smith was fired by ESPN back in 2009, he was essentially blackballed by the mainstream media. He received the label that you never want to receive when you're working in a team environment. Stephen A. Smith was labeled difficult to work with. It doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you're labeled difficult to work with, going to be incredibly difficult for you to find work. This same concept is true in sports. Remember Terrell Owens? Dude was the best receiver in the NFL. If he could have kept his ego in check, Terrell Owens, he would be remembered as one of the best to ever play in the league. But he couldn't get along with his teammates, especially his quarterbacks. He had problems with Jeff Garcia, had problems with Donovan McNabb. He was viewed as a cancer in the locker room. That is the reputation Stephen A. Smith had before he was rescued by Skip Bayless. I think one of the reasons Skip Bayless and Stephen A. worked so well together, Stephen A. Smith appreciated Skip saving his media career. No matter how much they disagreed, no matter how irritating Skip Bayless could be, Stephen A. Smith always felt like he owed his media career to Skip Bayless. It wasn't like that with Shannon Sharpe. Shay Shay wanted to be viewed as Skip's equal. I want my marriage with Skippy to be an equal partnership. I will do the dishes. Skip takes out the trash. I will purchase the ingredients for the pound my brown cake. Skip will supply the preparation H. For 7 years, Shay Shay was playing the part of the mistress instead of the wife. When it came time for contract renewals, who received more money? Skip Bayless. Who had complete control over Undisputed? Skip Bayless. Shannon Sharpe came to the realization that not only was he the mistress, he was also the co-star. If ratings for Undisputedly Woke were through the roof, dealing with an irritant like Skip Bayless becomes a little bit easier. But when you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to entertain 150,000 people while your competition's drawing 3 times that number, you have a tendency to focus on the negative aspects of your relationships. Think about the 7 years that Undisputed's been on the air. Stephen A. Smith generates media headlines, every week? I mean, the dude can be on vacation from Woke Take and his podcast will generate headlines in the media. In the last 7 years, how often did Shay and Bay draw media attention? Rarely? Never? They didn't start drawing attention until their tense personal relationship began surfacing on television. And even with the cat fights, even with the lovers' quarrel, the media attention didn't translate to higher ratings. It's been, about 4 weeks since the divorce was finalized between Skippy Bebe and Shay Shay. Undisputed has been off the air the entire time. Now, it was announced yesterday that Skippy would not be returning until August 28th. What? You mean to tell me Skip Bayless is going to remain off television for almost 3 months? What the hell's going on here? This dude is addicted to attention. This platform is the most important thing in his life. He gets a boner talking about the NBA draft. He strokes the woke wiener during NBA free agency. God forbid LeBron James makes news during the offseason. Skippy transforms into the 1-minute man with an immediate climax. And you mean to tell me he's going to be off the air the entire summer? Why? Well, according to Front Office Sports, who has sources working at FS1, the network's having an incredibly difficult time finding someone willing to work with Skip Bayless. What a shocker! Now, it's not surprising that people would be hesitant to work with Skip Bayless, but it is somewhat surprising that they're outright refusing to do so. I mean, just think about it. Even though Undisputed is a huge embarrassing failure, it's still the #1 show on FS1. This is a big opportunity for someone to increase their own personal brand. I mean, working with Skip Bayless, that's a high-profile job. And you mean to tell me not one person at FS1 is willing to do so? Not one? Nick Wright is starved for attention. Nick Wright's also an apologizer of white privilege, just like Skippy Bay. You mean to tell me Nick Wright's not willing to join forces with Skip and apologize for their white privilege together, while also entertaining the 150,000 lonely dudes who are watching him? This is just speculation on my part, but I think one of the problems here in finding a replacement for Shay Shay internally at FS1, Skip Bayless doesn't think Fox has an equal. There's no one on their roster that has the same level of name recognition as Skip Bayless. I mean, seriously, who the fuck is Joy Taylor? Most people have never heard of Nick Wright. I like Emmanuel Akko, but he's not a star in sports media. Skip Bayless has full creative control in Undisputed. Fox is allowing him to hire Shay's replacement. If you look at the roster at FS1, there really ain't no one to hire. There's also another problem here. According to Front Office Sports, Skip Bayless, he doesn't want another Shannon Sharpe. He doesn't want someone who can become a bigger star than him. He also doesn't want someone who will challenge him. Isn't that the point of a sports debate show? You challenge each other? That's the reason Stephen A. worked so well with Skip. He wasn't afraid to challenge him. And the thing is, Skip respected Stephen A. I'm not entirely sure he had that same level of respect for Shay Shay. But imagine my surprise when I find out that Skip Bayless doesn't want to be challenged and they're floating Max Kellerman as a possible replacement. If that's true, this has huge embarrassing failure written all over it. How many times does it have to be proven that Max Kellerman is not a ratings draw? On one hand, Max Kellerman, he would be exactly what Skip wants. A soft beta male who would hide in the shadows while Skip enjoys the spotlight all to himself. Skip Bayless could embarrass him on national television, and Max Kellerman, he would simply bend over and request the preparation H. One of the reasons Stephen A. fired Max Kellerman's ass from Woke Take was because Max was afraid to stand up to him. It made for boring television. Stephen A. Smith making ridiculous claims of mythical racism and Max sitting across from the table agreeing with him and begging for his approval. Skip Bayless has a serious problem here. By looking to hire someone who's afraid to challenge him, hiring someone who's afraid to steal his spotlight, Skip Bayless is essentially hastening his own demise. You see, in order for Skip Bayless to be effective, he's got to have an enemy. He built the foundation of his television career by promoting his unhealthy obsession with LeBron James. Now, I'm no defender of LeBron James. I feel like he ruined the NBA with his constant promotion of mythical racism, but at least I can be objective when talking about LeBron James. There is no objectivity with Skip Bayless. In his eyes, LeBron, he can do nothing right. And to his credit, he was able to build his television career off this obsession with the King of Queefs. When he partnered with Stephen A. Smith, Stephen A. became the new enemy. Even though they respected each other, they were always dueling it out on TV. After that relationship dissolved, Shannon Sharpe became the new enemy. The only reason these enemies were effective, they challenged Skip Bayless. And now he wants to hire someone who's afraid to challenge him? It doesn't make any sense. I think we are seeing the beginning of the end of Skip Bayless's media career. He signed a 4-year extension with FS1 back in 2021. I would assume the contract runs through 2024, but it's being reported that Fox is extremely hesitant to continue with Skip Bayless after his contract expires. And who can blame them? They're paying this dude $8 million a year to draw 150,000 viewers. Not only that, he can't get along with anyone. They can't find anyone to work with him. Like I said in the beginning, icons have a hard time letting go of their career. It's one thing to be difficult to work with when you're drawing big ratings. Completely different when your show is a huge embarrassing failure. It's going to be interesting to see who replaces Shay Shay. But to be honest with you, I don't think it matters. When you look at the landscape of sports debate, sports media, there are 3 mainstream stars: Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharpe. Fox had 2 of the 3, and they still couldn't draw ratings. There's not a bigger name out there to go out and get. And even if there were, Skip Bayless wouldn't hire them because he wants to be the star of the show. He wants to be the center of attention. I think this could be a case where ego is destroying the career of Skip Bayless. He's no longer the biggest star in sports media. That title belongs to Stephen A. Smith. Some people would argue that he wasn't even the biggest star on his own show. Shannon Sharpe was. And that jealousy played a major role in the divorce between Shay and Bay. And now, at 71 years old, Skip is left with no one. He's all alone. This dude is not Colin Cowherd. He can't carry a show on his own. Skip Bayless has to have an enemy, but it's kind of hard to recruit an enemy when you don't want to be challenged. Like I said, I think this is the beginning of the end for Skip Bayless, but what about you? Is his media career coming to an end? Do you see Fox keeping him on after his contract expires? Also, who do you think will replace Shay Shay? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.